Continuing to episode 9, Adonis and Doroka finally arrived at the large city they were heading to, Menuda. At that moment, Doroka once again asked if Adonis was seriously intending to slaughter the residents here. Doroka stated that a city this size must have numerous troops and weapons, expressing doubt that Adonis would survive the attack. All of this was just her bluff to dissuade Adonis from attacking the city. However, Adonis remained determined. Suddenly, Doroka asked for a duel, saying that the loser must comply with any request from the winner. Of course, Adonis refused. While Doroka still tried to force Adonis into a duel, they had already entered the city area. However, the scenery they saw was not much different from the Sandland city. All buildings appeared abandoned and overgrown with wild plants. Also, similar to the entrance gate, for some reason, there were numerous headless statues of women. Suddenly, Doroka told Adonis to stop because there was something ahead. From a distance, it looked like a woman. Without hesitation, Doroka approached the woman and asked about her condition. Adonis immediately reprimanded her, emphasizing that they should be more cautious with strangers. Nevertheless, Doroka couldn't resist helping the seemingly distressed woman. Since the woman was not dressed, Doroka gave her cloak to the woman. After that, she asked once again what had happened to her. The woman seemed uneasy and mentioned that she needed to hurry. From this response, Doroka suspected that the woman was running away from something. However, upon closer inspection, Adonis realized that it was not a human. He immediately told Doroka to step back. And indeed, the woman was not an ordinary human but a robot. For some reason, the robot suddenly measured Doroka's body size and pleasure index estimation. Then, the robot became aggressive. The robot claimed to want satisfaction regardless of whether its partner was also a woman. At that moment, Adonis shot the robot with his pistol. Adonis explained that the robot was called a Mard, a robotic doll used as a pleasure toy for humans. Not far from there, they heard some moaning sounds. Apparently, the sounds came from inside a building that used to be a hotel. Doroka realized that the moaning sounds were similar to the recently killed robot. This meant that the sounds were coming from Mards. After that, Adonis decided to investigate it himself, instructing Doroka to stay outside. However, once again, Doroka insisted on accompanying him. Adonis became disgusted because since Sandland, Doroka always acted as she pleased. He emphasized that his orders must be followed, threatening to leave her behind if she didn't comply. In case something happened, Adonis told Doroka to shout loudly. Shortly after Adonis left, Doroka saw something strange in the distance. Upon closer examination, it turned out there were many motionless Mards gathered in a fountain circle. Doroka felt extremely frightened upon seeing this and decided to enter the hotel as well. Finally, Doroka silently trailed Adonis from behind. She made excuses that this wasn't an act of disobedience. However, she had promised Punch not to let Adonis be in danger. Besides, Doroka was confident that Adonis wouldn't leave a girl alone. Suddenly, she remembered that Adonis had left her before in Punch's settlement. Yet, Doroka admitted that she was wrong at that time. She believed Adonis wanted to leave her out of concern, not wanting to involve her. Despite Adonis being intimidating when angry, Doroka was sure he wasn't a violent person. Suddenly, Doroka remembered something else. When she first revealed her identity to Adonis, he looked furious and even choked her. In the end, Doroka was caught following Adonis, making him extremely angry. Doroka immediately prostrated herself and apologized. She also tried to provide a reasonable explanation. According to Doroka, instead of splitting up, they would be safer acting together. Moreover, Doroka was the one carrying the bags and supplies, so it would be easier if she accompanied Adonis. Doroka was very afraid that Adonis wouldn't accept her reasoning. However, Adonis was resigned. After all, he also felt that Doroka had a point. What was clear, Adonis didn't want Doroka to hinder him. After exploring the hotel further, they finally found the room that was the source of the moaning sounds. Behind the door, they smelled a strong stench of corpse. Adonis then opened the door to that room. Indeed, there were several Mards forcing themselves on the lifeless bodies of men in the room. The Mards in that room looked different from those on the streets. The body shape of these Mards resembled humans closely. Adonis noticed a mark indicating that these Mards were made by Revia. What surprised him was that these Mards seemed to be developing self-awareness. They question why humans created them to live like this. Seeing their suffering, Adonis was forced to end the lives of those Mards immediately. Meanwhile, in the desert area, two special agents from the Suzerain nation were visible. They called each other by numbers. A short-haired girl was number 5, and a long-haired girl was number 6. They both ran very fast and happened to encounter Redia's guards who were on duty. The Redia guards were unmatched with their speed and shinobi techniques. Back in Menuda City, Adonis recalled Mrs. Ophelia's words. She stated that science strips away the identity of humanity, a claim Adonis couldn't deny after witnessing the city's condition. In a modern world capable of fulfilling all imaginations, it's certain that humans would create sex dolls. Adonis pointed out the remnants of handcuffs scattered across the city, used for Redia's prisoners. No matter how advanced a country is, it's not easy for a small nation like this to buy a large number of sex dolls from Redia. After seeing the handcuffs, it can be assumed that the people here sell female citizens to buy sex dolls just to satisfy their desires. They are even willing to discard wives and daughters just for sex dolls. This means the country is annihilated because there are no real women. Without women, there will be no new life born. Men continue to be ensnared by the pleasurable addiction that ruins them, and the country slowly crumbles. Adonis is sure that this country is not the only one to perish in the same way. Adonis also observed a pile of Mards stacked in a fountain circle. He and Doroka then went there carrying a speaker and megaphone. Doroka finally asked what Adonis intended to do. He explained that these tools would be used as a simple EMP. Doroka was then asked to point her megaphone at the Mards. With the addition of written summoning magic, Adonis could create a strong electromagnetic wave that caused the Mards to short-circuit. The Mards seemed grateful to be liberated from their suffering. Seeing this, Doroka herself felt grateful to be with Adonis. Unbeknownst to Adonis and Doroka, two Suzerain Nation intel agents had been observing them. It seems that number 5 and number 6 were given a mission to find Adonis, the witch's disciple. Number 5 couldn't believe that the Redia fugitive looked so young. However, number 6 reminded her to stay cautious. Despite appearing young, Adonis had overwhelmed the Redia Empire. He had attacked the capital to avenge the witches. They also heard that Adonis had successfully annihilated the elite forces chasing him. Number 5 suddenly became curious about why they were given this mission. Usually, their nation always steers clear of matters related to witches. Number 6 explained that Kaiser Suzerain himself wanted to seize Adonis's combat power. After that, they began their mission to capture Adonis. However, coincidentally, Shirusagi also arrived at the same time. Seeing someone else interfering with their mission, Shirusagi decided to deal with the intruder first. Number 5 and number 6 certainly didn't expect Shirusagi's arrival. One thing's for sure, they had to confront the figure before them. After Adonis and Doroka freed the Mards from their suffering, Doroka made a grave to honor them. Adonis suddenly remarked that praying for the Mards was pointless. Once a grave was made and prayers were said, they became tools for people running away from reality. Adonis stated that if they wanted to help the Mards, they needed to make humans feel the hatred of the Mards. However, as usual, Doroka disagreed with that perspective. In addition to the grave for the Mards, Doroka also made another grave for the witches who died in Lunamilia. Seeing Doroka's constant crying, Adonis told her to stay here. Doroka couldn't understand why Adonis would say something so harsh. Adonis then reminded her once again that the witches in Lunamilia were killed because of him. However, Doroka wanted to travel with the killer. Initially, Doroka wanted to be angry, but she refrained from letting her emotions take over and instead showed a hanging doll in her back. The doll was a replica of herself and Adonis, created by Doroka as evidence of their reconciliation. Adonis was sure that he had thrown away the doll earlier. Doroka then said she had no intention of blaming Adonis. She also didn't want to fight with him again. Moreover, the witches in Lunamilia were also at fault for wanting to exploit Adonis to obtain weapons to fight against humans. After hearing that, Adonis apologized softly and invited her to continue the journey. As they headed toward the motorcycle, unexpectedly, there was a suspicious person waiting for them on the motorcycle. That person was Shirusagi. Somehow, he lifted the motorcycle and smashed it into pieces. Furthermore, in his left hand, there were 2 heads that he had just beheaded. Shirosagi introduced himself as an important person from Rivia. Upon hearing this, Adonis became excited because he finally met someone he could kill.